That high school grad's such a loser in society. He deposited like $1 in my bank.
At our 25th high school reunion, I overheard Jake mocking me. As I stepped out of the banquet hall to use the restroom and passed by the smoking area, I heard his voice. Peeking over, I saw Jake, now a bank CEO, chatting and laughing with some of his buddies. I knew right away he was bad-mouthing me. Jake, whose parents were high-ranking bureaucrats, always looked down on others. I'll leave just $1 and close my account. I muttered that to myself, unheard by anyone, and left the scene. My name is Mike, and I'm 43 years old. Today, I've come back to New York for the first time in years for our 25th high school reunion. Born and raised in New York, I moved to a small island in the Gulf of Mexico 15 years ago when I got married. Initially, I was worried about adapting to such a different environment, but as they say, home is where you make it. Now I've fully integrated into the island community. Hearing New York now feels distant, and I hesitated to attend this reunion. But with it being the 25th anniversary, and on my wife's advice, I decided to show up. There are only 3 ferries a day from the island. To catch the first one, I left home early and reached the city by evening. First, I met up with my best friend from high school, Tom. We stayed in touch even after graduation. Although we hadn't seen each other since I moved to the island, we occasionally communicated via social media. Tom, always smart, is now a successful lawyer. Yet, he hasn't lost his down-to-earth nature from our school days. We quickly reconnected and as a pre-reunion celebration, went out for drinks together. Our high school in New York was a prestigious academic institution, filled with promising students. It was a bland school where most students followed the path laid out by their parents. Eventually, I grew tired of studying, and while everyone aimed for prestigious universities, my future plans remained undecided. I was the only non-serious student in our year, a puzzle to both teachers and my own parents. Tom was the only one who didn't change his attitude towards me. He's a fine lawyer now, but at his core, he has always wanted to help the underprivileged. With his brain, he could have been a corporate lawyer, but chose to work in a small community law firm instead.
By the way, I saw Jake on the news recently. Can you believe it? He's the CEO of the Bank of America now.
Tom mentioned that, his face flushed from the alcohol. Jake, our former classmate, was the son of a high-ranking official in a major department. I had heard about the youngest bank CEO in history making it to the top, but never realized it was Jake. My dad was just a regular employee, so we didn't have much in common with the high and mighty. I remember Tom being overly cautious around Jake because his parents worked under Jake's father. Jake, taking advantage of this, often exploited Tom for menial tasks in the student committee. Regardless of our parents' statuses, I thought we should have treated each other as equals, but Tom seemed unable to stand up to Jake. Jake always liked bossing people around.
People like him end up in high places.
I never really liked him, I added. Tom gave a wry smile in agreement. On the day of the reunion, all our classmates seemed to have aged well and were leading decent lives. Having lived on the island for so long, I felt out of place in their conversations, like a newcomer to New York. A few others had moved to the countryside for their retirement, but living on an isolated island was unique to me. Sure, country living can be peaceful, but the lack of major hospitals on the island can be a concern. Many islanders have moved back to the mainland for this reason. However, the 360-degree ocean view on the island is unparalleled, and I found nothing to replace it. Plus, there's Emily, my wife. While I sat there, I couldn't help but think about returning to the island. As I was talking about this, Jake, the infamous bank CEO, joined in. He didn't just join us. He came to steal the spotlight. Jake always liked drawing attention to himself. When he was at the center of our classmates, his eyes always sparkled with ambition. When I congratulated him, saying, "Congrats on becoming the CEO," he casually replied with a smug look, "This is just the beginning of my era. I'll be a mover and shaker in the US?" I jokingly asked Jake, "So, Mr. CEO, how about setting up a bank on our island? It's inconvenient with just a post office." Jake smirked at my words.
Sure, I'll think about it. When that happens, Mike, you can be the manager. I'll make a special case for a high school grad like you.
I replied, thanks a lot. Honestly, my high school education doesn't bother me. Education is just a thing of the past. But Jake came from a family of bureaucrats and was shaped by a credential-focused society. He probably can't help but think this way. As adults, we just need to smile and let it pass. After some time, as the party was reaching its peak, I decided to head to the restroom. It was located at the end of a long corridor, but on the way, I passed by the smoking room where Jake and a few classmates were chatting. I don't smoke, so I intended to simply pass it by, but unfortunately, I overheard part of their conversation. They were talking about a high school grad, undoubtedly me, as I'm the only one such person in our school.
High school grads are useless in society. They deposit like $1 in my bank.
I heard Jake's words followed by their laughter. It brought back old memories. Jake never said it directly, but he always laughed at ordinary folks like me with his friends. I think that mocking others is a regrettable act, revealing one's own prejudices without even realizing it. It's surprising that someone still talks like that as an adult. It's crazy that such a person could become a bank CEO. I'll leave just $1 and close my account. I whispered to myself, unheard by anyone. My wife and I actually run hotels and inns on the islands in the Gulf of Mexico, and thanks to the tourism boom, we've been quite successful lately. We've renovated old houses with the help of famous architects. Our museum-like inn has been fully booked for the next 3 years. The Bank of America is one of our main banks, but I can't leave our hard-earned assets in a bank run by someone like Jake. I met Emily, my wife and business partner, when I was 25. After high school, I worked in construction for a year and traveled the world with the money I saved. I felt I had to leave the US to find my future. Back then, I blamed the US for being uninteresting, not realizing it was my lack of dreams. The world was vast, but walking through foreign cities, I didn't feel much joy. They seemed not so different from the US. Then, in Africa, I befriended a young man from a minority tribe and was invited to his homeland. There, I discovered the essence of enjoying life. Living simply in nature, their eyes sparkled more than anyone I'd met, and everyone was smiling. I had traveled to many developed countries, but nowhere had I seen everyone smiling like that. Even in the US. Despite the lack of material goods, people seemed fulfilled in a way that modern US, overwhelmed by possessions, were not. I realized what I, and perhaps modern US, were missing was known to these Africans. I lived with them for a while, learning how to enjoy life. Their children, intrigued by the rare American visitor, shared their culture and games with me. I realized the stark difference between us. They could easily speak of their good qualities, while I struggled to mention mine. A young girl asked me, "Why can't you see the good in yourself?" It wasn't the US that was boring. I realized that I hadn't found something I truly wanted to do because I never really took an interest in myself. After returning to the US, I decided to travel across the country with a map in hand. It dawned on me that I had never really known the US beyond New York. I wanted to visit various places and talk to different people. During my travels, I met Emily on a beautiful island in the Gulf of Mexico. I was captivated by the island's scenery and atmosphere, and stayed there for a while, helping the locals. Emily was there. She was a part of the landscape. She was still about high school age, visiting the lighthouse on the Cape daily, gazing at the sea. The lady who ran the inn I was staying at told me Emily was the only daughter of a local influential person, but had never left the island due to her frail health. There was only a middle school on the island, so for high school, one had to go to the mainland. However, Emily, often ill, couldn't do that. Studying alone from textbooks had its limits, so I offered to tutor her. I became one of her home tutors. Her parents were initially hesitant about a stranger like me, but once they knew the islanders trusted me, they gladly accepted my offer. I stayed on the island for about a year, teaching Emily. Then I resumed my journey, traversing every corner of the US for several years. This long journey made me realize the beauty of the US, but what stayed with me the most was the island where I met Emily. I wanted to live there forever. We kept in touch, and Emily hoped for my return. Her parents had grown to trust me, and when we reunited on the island, we got married. I was the one who proposed renovating the buildings on the island and promoting it. I wanted to make the island appealing for younger generations to move there, thus preserving the island's environment. Emily's parents agreed with the idea. That's how our grand project of revitalizing the island began. It was gratifying to see Emily, who thought she'd spend her life on the island in frail health, discovering her dormant talents through the project. She loved painting and created truly marvelous works. Together, supported by the islanders and her parents, we renovated the entire island into a significant industry, drawing global attention. But people like Jake, lounging in the comforts of New York, wouldn't understand its beauty. They believed they're the only ones moving society forward. The next day, I went to the Bank of America's head office, where Jake was. As soon as I handed my business card at the reception, I was swiftly led to the reception room. While Jake would scoff at hearing my name, mentioning my company would surely bring him out. As expected, Jake was visibly shocked to see me. "Here I am, doing exactly what you said," I began. Jake, sweating, asked what I said. "Yes, I've decided to move $700 million out of the bank, leaving just $1, I replied. Jake, never imagining I was a CEO, suddenly became subservient.
Don't say that, Mike. We went to school together.
His sudden flip-flop was almost impressive. Was this how he climbed to the top of the Bank of America? But no matter how much he groveled, I knew his true nature. I couldn't entertain his talk now. "Sorry, but I'm moving the funds. I won't close the account though. Maybe I'll deposit again if I feel like it." Jake's eyes gleamed.
Why move it then? Is this some kind of spite against me? You can predict what a poor man with money might do.
He finally showed his true colors. "That's your real thought, huh? Sure, I'm a newbie who's succeeded in business over the past 10 years. I don't know the right way to use money or manners, but I want to use what I have for the benefit of others." Jake half listened, half laughed at my serious talk. "I see, that's typical of someone who used to be poor, but why not let professionals manage your money? Just holding it won't increase its value. You have to try to grow it," he said, clearly not wanting my company's assets in another bank. It was as if he thought, what's yours is mine, and what's mine is mine. True, growing money is important, but we're talking about entrusting significant assets. The choice of where matters.
Then it has to be the Bank of America.
Jake exclaimed. He was evidently confident in his work. Or maybe he never doubted himself, always believing in his absolute superiority. Part of me envied Jake. He rode on a path laid out by predecessors, never having to doubt anything, something I felt I could never match. Even if Jake is right in his thinking, I just can't bring myself to like it. "You think the most important thing in this world is money, don't you?" I asked him. Jake laughed out loud.
Hot, even I wouldn't say that. Saying money is more important than human life would cause an uproar. Even if I think about it, I wouldn't say it.
"So, you do think about it in your heart?" Jake's face was marked with deep wrinkles, casting stark shadows. It almost felt like a devil smiling.
Mike, the world is undeniably moved by money. No matter how strong your sense of justice, it's fragile like a straw hut before money. I've seen it firsthand.
Which world is broader, the one Jake has seen or the one I've seen? I remembered my travels. The young girl from the African tribe I met probably didn't even know money existed. Yet she taught me something invaluable. "I can't trust you, Jake, so I can't trust this bank you're leading either. I'm going to move my deposit." I stated it clearly. Emily would surely feel the same. But Jake was persistent.
You don't understand. You're on the rise now and not thinking ahead. In times of need, other banks won't lend you much, but I, as a schoolmate, would lend you what you need.
I was astonished at Jake's shamelessness. "Schoolmate, you've been mocking me for being just a high school grad. You never considered me a friend, did you?" Jake laughed. "Mock you? Have I ever called you stupid? I might have mentioned you're a high school grad, but that's just a fact, it's trivial. So, to Jake, everything but money is trivial. He can pretend to be friends if it's for money. I grew sad, realizing we couldn't even have an honest conversation. It's strange how I could interact with people of different ethnicities, cultures, and languages, yet find such a vast difference in values with someone from my own country. I never considered you a friend, so please don't think of me as a schoolmate, it's creepy. I'll never forget Jake's pale, petrified face when I said that. A look of utter despair. Ignoring Jake, I moved our company's main banking elsewhere. When I told Tom about it, he sighed. Well, it can't be helped.
Sometimes it's better to cut ties cleanly, he said.
Tom had cut ties with his own father. Apparently, his father wanted him to pursue politics. He had always groveled under Jake's bureaucrat father. But Tom rebelled.
I tolerated Jake in high school, but to continue doing so in a world of entanglements.
He left his father to become a small-town lawyer, funding his own college education.
Your thinking is right, Mike. It's not about the outcome. What one feels in their heart is what's right. Jake has no heart.
Yo, I couldn't feel any heart in Jake's words. I had a feeling that dark clouds loomed over his future. Soon after, news broke that the youngest ever CEO of the Bank of America had resigned. His prejudiced remarks and intimidating behavior towards subordinates had leaked. In the past, such things might have been suppressed, but nowadays, the public gets wind of incidents first. Once spread in the vast internet world, information proliferates uncontrollably. Jake received numerous anonymous slanders, and plagued by distrust, he had to lay low for a while. I felt a bit sorry for him, but it seemed like poetic justice. A heartless person attracts heartless words, it seems. The island revitalization project was progressing well, with more young people wanting to move in. I shared with Emily my one wish: to invite the girl who had opened my eyes to the truth back then. I wanted to return to her African village and bring her to our island. If she refused, I'd understand. It was my own idea. But if she did, I planned to give her one of Emily's island paintings as a gift. Holding this precious painting, I set out to travel again, ready to share my own story with the girl.